Amara's scream pierced the silence of the mansion's west wing at 3 in the morning. In her trembling hand, illuminated by the soft glow of a bedside lamp, something long and dark writhed between her fingers. A millipede, alive, still moving, and it had just been pulled from inside 7-year-old Hana's ear canal. But to understand how a creature could live undetected inside a billionaire's daughter for years, we need to go back to where it all began. 3 months earlier, Amara Okonkwo stepped off a plane at Incheon International Airport with nothing but a worn suitcase and a heart full of hope. The employment agency had promised her a position in a wealthy household, good pay, and the chance to send money back to her family in Lagos. What they hadn't told her was that she'd be working for one of South Korea's most ruthless businessmen. Mr. Han Jae-won's empire stretched across shipping, real estate, and technology. His name commanded respect in boardrooms from Seoul to Singapore. But inside his massive estate in Gangnam, behind walls that kept the world out, lived a secret that money couldn't fix. His only daughter, Hana, had been born completely deaf. If you're already hooked by this mystery, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe where this story goes next. And don't forget to like this video because what happens next will leave you speechless. The first time Amara saw Hana, the little girl was sitting alone in a sunlit playroom, surrounded by expensive toys she barely touched. Her dark eyes were distant, locked on something only she could see. The previous nanny had quit 3 days earlier, making Amara the 5th caregiver in 2 years. She doesn't speak, Mrs. Choi, the head housekeeper, explained in broken English. She doesn't hear. Mr. Han tried everything. American doctors, European specialists, surgeries, nothing worked. Amara knelt beside Hana, not trying to speak or gesture wildly like others did. She simply sat there, present and calm. After several minutes, Hana's eyes shifted. She looked at Amara with a curious tilt of her head. Then something remarkable happened. The little girl reached out and touched Amara's hand. "She likes you," Mrs. Choi said, surprise evident in her voice. "She never touches anyone." Over the following weeks, Amara discovered that Hana was not just deaf, but trapped in a world of silent suffering that no one seemed to notice. While other staff members treated her like a fragile ornament, Amara treated her like a child. She played with her, taught her simple games, and communicated through gentle touch and exaggerated facial expressions. But Amara noticed things others had overlooked. Hana scratched her left ear constantly, sometimes until it turned red. She cried silently at night, tears streaming down her face as she pressed her small hand against the side of her head. She always slept on her right side, never her left. And there was something else, something that made Amara's instincts scream that something was terribly wrong. A faint, almost imperceptible odor emanated from Hana's left ear, not the normal smell of wax, but something organic and wrong. "Mr. Han, I think something is wrong with Hana's ear," Amara said one evening after dinner, her voice respectful but firm. Mr. Han looked up from his tablet, his expression cold and dismissive. He was a man who lived in numbers and profits, not speculation from a housemaid. "My daughter has been examined by the best doctors in the world. They found nothing beyond her congenital deafness. But, sir, she scratches it all the time. And there's a smell." "Enough." His voice cut through the air like a blade. "You are here to care for her, not to play doctor. If you cannot handle this position, I can find someone else." Amara bowed her head, but the worry in her chest only grew heavier. Mr. Han's relationship with his daughter was complicated by shame and helplessness. In his world of power and control, Hana's deafness represented a failure he couldn't fix. He loved her, but that love was buried beneath layers of frustration and embarrassment. At family gatherings, he kept her hidden. At business events, she was never mentioned. His own brother's wife, Aunt Sujin, often made cutting remarks about Hana's condition, suggesting that perhaps Mr. Han's family line was cursed. Such a pity, Aunt Sujin would say with false sympathy. My son is so healthy and bright. Perhaps he should be considered for succession. These words cut deeper than Mr. Han would ever admit. One night, 3 weeks after Amara's warning, everything changed. Amara woke to a sound that shouldn't have existed in the middle of the night. A soft thumping from Hana's room. She rushed down the hallway, her bare feet silent on the marble floors, and pushed open the door. Hana was sitting up in bed, hitting the left side of her head with her small fist, tears pouring down her face. Her silent mouth was open in what could only be a scream, but no sound came out. Her eyes were wide with terror and pain. "Hana!" Amara rushed to her, pulling the child into her arms. "What's wrong, baby? Show me! Show Amara!" The little girl pointed frantically at her ear, then hit it again. Amara's mind raced. She grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and tilted Hana's head gently toward the light. With trembling fingers, she carefully pulled back the small ear. At first, she saw nothing unusual, just the normal canal of a child's ear. But then, in the deepest part where shadow met light, something moved. It was subtle, a ripple, a shifting. Amara's blood ran cold. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. She ran to the bathroom and grabbed a clean washcloth and a pair of tweezers from the first aid kit. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped them. Back in the bedroom, Hana was still crying silently, rocking back and forth. "Hana, baby, look at me," Amara said, positioning the child under the bright lamp. "Amara is going to help you, but you must stay very, very still." The little girl seemed to understand. Her body went rigid with trust. Amara shone the lamp directly into the ear canal, and there, deep inside, she saw it clearly now. A long, segmented body, dark brown, almost black, legs moving in a rhythmic wave. A millipede, at least 2 inches long, was living inside Hana's ear. The sight made Amara's stomach turn, but she forced herself to stay calm. With steady hands, she carefully inserted the tweezers. The millipede sensed the intrusion and tried to burrow deeper, making Hana whimper. Amara whispered soothing words in Yoruba, prayers her grandmother had taught her, as she carefully, so carefully grasped the creature's body. It resisted. She pulled gently but firmly. The millipede curled and twisted, its many legs scraping against the sensitive inner ear. Hana's body tensed, but she didn't move. She trusted Amara completely. After what felt like an eternity, but was only seconds, the millipede came free. Amara quickly wrapped it in the washcloth, her hand shaking as she felt it writhing against the fabric. "Stay here," she commanded Hana, then ran out of the room, clutching the cloth. She burst into Mr. Han's bedroom without knocking, her voice finally releasing the scream she'd been holding back. Mr. Han, wake up!" The billionaire jolted awake, reaching instinctively for something under his pillow, probably a panic button. "What? What's happening?" "Your daughter. I found something." Amara thrust the cloth toward him. He switched on the bedside lamp, his face twisted with confusion and anger at being woken. "What are you talking about?" Amara carefully unwrapped the cloth. The millipede, still very much alive, uncurled itself on the white fabric. Mr. Han's face went from anger to confusion to absolute horror in seconds. "What? Where did you... Is that..." "From inside Hana's ear," Amara said, her voice breaking. "It's been living inside her ear, sir. This is the moment everything changed. If your heart is racing right now, Imagine how this father felt. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us what you would have done in this situation. And make sure you're subscribed, because the truth behind how this got there will shock you. Mr. Hahn leaped from his bed, nearly falling in his haste. "Show me, take me to her now." They rushed back to Hannah's room. The little girl was still sitting where Amara had left her, but something was different. Her head was tilted to the side and her eyes were moving rapidly, as if trying to process new information. When Mr. Hahn entered the room, something impossible happened. Hannah turned her head toward the sound of the door opening. Mr. Hahn froze mid-step. "Did she just—" "Mr. Hahn, we need to call a doctor immediately," Amara said. Within 30 minutes, Dr. Park Min-jae, the Han family's private physician, arrived at the estate. He was a serious man in his 60s who had been skeptical of Amara's claims over the phone, but his skepticism evaporated when he saw the millipede still moving in its cloth prison. "This is extraordinary," he muttered, examining the creature first, then Hannah. "And horrifying. How long has this been there?" "I don't know," Mr. Hahn said, his voice hollow. "Years, possibly. She was born deaf, or so we thought." Dr. Park shone a specialized light into Hannah's ear canal, using an otoscope to examine the damage. What he saw made him inhale sharply. "Mr. Hahn, the ear canal shows signs of chronic inflammation and blockage. There's significant debris, possibly the creature's waste and shed skin. The tympanic membrane is damaged, but—" He paused, shining the light again. "But it's not the kind of damage associated with congenital deafness." "What are you saying?" Mr. Hahn demanded. "I'm saying your daughter may not have been born deaf at all. This creature, living inside her ear canal for years, would have completely blocked sound waves from reaching the inner ear. The constant irritation and pressure would have damaged the eardrum and created inflammation that mimicked congenital deafness symptoms. All those tests you ran measured her inability to hear, but they never looked for an obstruction like this, because who would ever suspect a living creature?" The room fell into stunned silence. "Are you telling me," Mr. Hahn's voice was dangerously quiet, "that my daughter has suffered for 7 years because of a bug? Not just any bug. Millipedes are attracted to dark, warm, moist environments. They can survive in such conditions for extended periods. But Mr. Hahn—" Dr. Park's expression darkened. "Millipedes don't just crawl into ears and take up residence, especially not infant ears. The opening would have been even smaller when she was a baby. For this to happen, the millipede would have had to be placed there deliberately, or the child would have had to be in an environment where such an infestation was possible. Neither scenario makes sense given your household conditions. What are you suggesting?" Mr. Hahn's hands clenched into fists. "I'm suggesting you need to investigate how this happened." Mr. Hahn turned to Amara, his eyes blazing with suspicion. You just arrived 3 months ago. You're the one who found this. How do I know you didn't—" "Sir," Amara's voice cracked with emotion, "I would never hurt a child. Never. I have 3 younger siblings back home. I came here to help, not to harm. If I wanted to hurt Hannah, why would I wake you? Why would I show you? I could have kept silent." Dr. Park intervened. "Mr. Hahn, the damage I'm seeing is years old. This maid has only been here for weeks. She's not your enemy. She's the one who saved your daughter." Mr. Hahn's shoulders sagged. The anger drained from his face, replaced by something more devastating. Guilt. "Then who? How?" "I recommend we start by checking your security footage," Dr. Park said. "How far back do your cameras go?" 10 years, Mr. Hahn replied. "I keep everything." Over the next several hours, as dawn broke over Seoul, Mr. Han and his head of security reviewed years of footage. They focused on the nursery where Hannah had slept as an infant, fast-forwarding through thousands of hours of recording. Amara stayed with Hannah, who was finally sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. The little girl's face was relaxed, no longer scrunched in silent pain. Every few minutes, Amara would check on her, guilt and relief warring in her chest. Guilt that she hadn't pushed harder earlier, relief that the nightmare was finally over. At 7 in the morning, Mr. Han's roar echoed through the mansion. Get her out of my house now. Amara rushed out of Hannah's room to find Mr. Han standing in the hallway, his face purple with rage, while his security team physically restrained him from charging toward the East Wing where his brother's family stayed. What happened? Amara asked Mrs. Choi. The housekeeper's face was pale. They found something on the video from 7 years ago, when Hannah was 3 months old. The footage was damning and crystal clear. At 2:47 a.m. on a January night 7 years earlier, Aunt Soo-jin entered the nursery. She stood over baby Hannah's crib for several minutes, looking around to ensure she was alone. Then she pulled something from her pocket, a small container. She opened it, extracted something with tweezers and placed it carefully near the sleeping infant's ear. The security team had enhanced the footage. The object she placed was clearly a millipede. She tried to give my daughter brain damage, Mr. Han said, his voice shaking with barely controlled fury. Or kill her, or disable her, all so her son could inherit my company. Aunt Soo-jin was brought before Mr. Han in his study. She denied everything at first, her face a mask of innocence. But when shown the footage, her expression crumbled. You don't understand, she whispered. Your brother worked so hard. He deserved a chance at your empire. But you only had one child, one daughter. I thought if she was damaged somehow, you might consider our son for succession. I didn't mean for it to last this long. I thought you'd find it. I thought doctors would remove it. This betrayal cuts deeper than any business deal gone wrong. If you're as angry as we are right now, smash that like button and comment justice below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because you need to see how this father gets his revenge. You thought? Mr. Han's voice was ice. You placed a creature inside my infant daughter's ear and you thought doctors would find it. You watched her suffer for 7 years. 7 years of my daughter living in silence because of you. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would... Get out of my house. Get out of my sight. I'm filing criminal charges. My lawyers will destroy you and your family. You will never see your son inherit anything because I will make sure your entire bloodline is erased from my family registry. Aunt Soo-jin was escorted out by security while her husband, Mr. Han's younger brother, stood in the hallway, looking shattered. He had known nothing of his wife's actions, but the stain of her crime would mark him forever. Over the next 3 weeks, Hannah underwent a series of treatments. The ear canal was carefully cleaned and treated for infection. The damaged eardrum required minor surgical repair. Dr. Park consulted with specialists in pediatric audiology to assess the extent of damage and potential recovery. The prognosis was cautiously optimistic. The inner ear structures appear intact, one specialist explained. The damage was primarily mechanical blockage and inflammation rather than neurological. With treatment and possibly hearing aids initially, she may regain significant hearing. Amara stayed by Hannah's side through every procedure, every doctor's visit, every moment of confusion and fear. The bond between them had transcended language or sound. It was built on trust and love. One afternoon, exactly 4 weeks after that terrible night, Amara was in Hana's room organizing toys. She accidentally knocked a metal picture frame off the dresser. It hit the wooden floor with a sharp clang. Hana, who was sitting on her bed looking at a book, flinched. Amara froze. Hana. The little girl's head turned slowly toward the source of the sound. Her eyes were wide with confusion and wonder. Hana, can you hear me? Amara's voice trembled. Hana stared at Amara's mouth as she spoke. The little girl's expression was bewildered, as if trying to make sense of something completely new. Then her small hand reached up and touched her own ear. Sound, Amara whispered, tears streaming down her face. You can hear sound, baby. She ran to find Mr. Han, who was in his office. Sir, come quickly. They returned to find Hana still sitting on the bed, her hand pressed against her ear, looking both frightened and amazed. Mr. Han approached slowly, as if moving towards something fragile and precious that might shatter. He knelt before his daughter. For the first time in years he looked at her not with frustration or shame, but with pure, overwhelming love. Hana, he said softly, can you hear me? The little girl's eyes locked on his face. She tilted her head, processing. Then, miracle of miracles, she pointed at his mouth. She sees you speaking, Amara explained, tears still flowing. She's connecting the movement with the sound. Mr. Han's composure finally broke. This man who commanded boardrooms and controlled billions, who had built an empire through ruthless determination, collapsed onto the floor and wept. He pulled his daughter into his arms and sobbed into her hair. I'm sorry, he choked out. I'm so sorry I didn't see. I'm sorry I didn't know. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. Hana, confused by her father's emotion but moved by something she felt deeply, wrapped her small arms around his neck. Over the following months, Hana's progress was remarkable. With speech therapy and auditory training, she began not just to hear, but to understand. Her first word, spoken in a small, uncertain voice at the age of 7, was Appa, father. Mr. Han was in a business meeting when it happened. Amara called him immediately. He left a room full of executives without explanation and drove home at speeds that would have gotten him arrested had he been anyone else. He found Hana in the garden with Amara. When she saw him, her face lit up with a smile that could have powered the entire city. Appa, she said again, the word clearer this time. Mr. Han picked her up and spun her around, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, I'm your Appa. Say it again. Appa, Hana giggled, the sound of her own laughter startling her. This moment right here is why we tell these stories. If you're crying too, you're not alone. Leave a comment sharing what this means to you. Hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed because stories like this remind us why human connection matters. The transformation in the Han household was complete. Mr. Han became a different father. He cancelled unnecessary meetings to spend time with Hina. He hired the best speech therapists in Asia. He personally attended every session, learning alongside his daughter. As for Amara, Mr. Han called her into his office one afternoon. Sit, he said, his tone formal but not cold. Amara sat nervously, unsure what to expect. I've been unfair to you since you arrived, Mr. Han began. I dismissed your concerns. I questioned your motives. I treated you as just another employee when you were trying to save my daughter. Sir, I was only... He held up his hand. Please, let me finish. You did what none of my expensive doctors could do. You saw what I was too blind to see. You persisted when I told you to stop. You risked your position to help my daughter. That kind of courage and compassion is rare. He slid an envelope across the desk. Effective immediately, you are Hana's primary caregiver. Your salary is tripled. I'm also setting up a trust fund for your family in Nigeria. Your siblings will have their education fully funded through university. And this, he pulled out another document. This is a contract offering you permanent residency in South Korea and eventual citizenship if you choose to stay. Amara stared at the papers, tears blurring her vision. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Say you'll help me raise my daughter to be strong and kind like you. Yes, Amara whispered. Yes, I'll stay. Mr. Han stood and extended his hand. Thank you for saving her, for seeing her when I couldn't. 2 years later, Hana stood on a stage at her elementary school, participating in her first speaking competition. Her voice was clear and strong as she recited a poem about courage and love. In the audience, Mr. Han sat with tears in his eyes, while Amara beamed with pride. After the performance, Hana ran to them both, throwing her arms around Amara first, then her father. I heard every word, she said, her pronunciation nearly perfect now. I heard the whole audience clapping. You were magnificent, Mr. Han said. Amara says I can do anything, Hana replied. She says the world is full of sound and I should listen to all of it. She's right, Mr. Han agreed, looking at Amara with gratitude that would never fade. She's always right. As they walked out of the school together, an unlikely family bound by suffering and salvation, Mr. Han thought about how close he'd come to losing everything that mattered, how wealth and power meant nothing when your child suffered, how sometimes the person you need most is the one you almost didn't see. That night, as Hana slept peacefully with her ear pressed against her pillow, without pain for the first time in her memory, Mr. Han stood in her doorway watching her breathe. Amara joined him silently. I still have nightmares, he admitted quietly, about what could have happened if you hadn't been paying attention, if you hadn't cared enough to look closer. But I did, Amara said simply, because that's what you do when you love someone. You pay attention. You look closer. You don't give up. Mr. Han nodded. I'm grateful every day that you came to us. You didn't just save my daughter's hearing. You saved our family. This story proves that sometimes the smallest voice can make the biggest difference. If this touched your heart, hit that subscribe button one last time. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that miracles happen when we pay attention to what others miss. Like this video and comment below telling us what lesson you're taking away from Hana's story. Because stories like this remind us that love, attention and courage can overcome anything, even a billionaire's blind spots. The millipede that had stolen 7 years of sound from a little girl's life was preserved in a medical jar, donated to a research institute studying rare parasitic cases. Aunt Sujin served 2 years in prison for child endangerment and attempted murder. Her family never recovered from the scandal, but in the Han household life bloomed with sound. Hana learned to play piano, her fingers dancing across keys she could finally hear. She sang in the school choir, her voice pure and true. She laughed at jokes and jumped at sudden noises and complained about her alarm clock, just like any other child. And through it all, Amara remained, not as a maid or an employee, but as family. The woman who had pulled a nightmare from a child's ear and in doing so, had pulled an entire family back from the edge of permanent darkness. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see what insiders have missed. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, when everyone else has given up, one person's determination to care can change everything.